All right, so let's ask you a couple questions here. I want to start with the Raiders. Your boy, Pete Carroll, is now the head coach of the Raiders. Now, I am on the side of, look, I think it's a good hire. I just don't know if it means anything considering their quarterback situation. Where do you land on all that?
Yeah, I like the hire. I'll start there. You never know who's going to be a good head coach, in large part because even if you hire like a hot offensive defensive coordinator, you don't know if they're going to be a good leader, CEO. We know Pete Carroll can do those things. He's literally written books about leadership, and obviously he's a proven winner. So you kind of get rid of that level of uncertainty. He also obviously had incredible success with a young quarterback in Russell Wilson and turned around. It really ushered in an era of defense in Seattle, and those are both things that the Raiders need to accomplish. The quarterback question, however, will probably determine how successful his regime is in Las Vegas, however long it lasts. And as you guys know all too well, this isn't the greatest quarterback draft, but I want to give them the benefit of the doubt before I really dig into the quarterbacks. But yeah, that's going to be, I think, Pete Carroll's biggest and most important decision.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been arguing about this for a few days actually because I'm a huge Pete Carroll fan. I'm a big Pete Carroll believer, and I think that within 3 years, or maybe 4 if they decide to keep it going, he will set that organization up. Because now you have a coach, Mina, that has the resume that the other coaches in the division have. Doesn't have a quarterback yet, but when he gets one, Pete Carroll has the resume to say, I belong in this division with these guys, and I can turn the Raiders around. I believe he will.
Yeah, he's a really good organization builder, right? Because the Raiders have just been sort of muddling along for so long now. It hasn't felt like they've had a steady hand who's kind of setting the culture, deciding what kind of coaching staff he wants to put together. I thought it was really interesting that he's bringing back Patrick Graham, who's a defensive coordinator, who's like one of the brighter young minds in football. I liked that because a lot of times a new guy comes in, he wants to do his whole staff all over, but that wasn't the case. So, yeah, like I said, I'm very optimistic about this. It felt like a good fit between the team and the coach.
There doesn't seem to be that same level of excitement in Dallas right now, Mina, with the Brian Schottenheimer. Right? And, I mean, but here's the thing. Talk about going from the excitement, the thrill of chasing Deion Sanders to the hiring of Brian Schottenheimer. I mean, your thoughts on what Jerry ultimately decided to do there.
Yeah, that one was puzzling because I'll start here. I thought the Dallas job was pretty desirable in terms of state of the roster, the quarterback. Obviously, there's some things that need to be fixed, but I thought they would have had their pick of names. And, I guess I'll say this about Brian Schottenheimer. I think a lot of the lack of enthusiasm comes from the fact that he's been around the league so long, called some offenses that maybe weren't the most exciting, and then he's been associated with this Dallas offense, right, the last couple of years. I will say a year ago was quite good, but obviously ran into a wall in the playoffs, and then this year felt kind of stale. He didn't call plays, and he hasn't called plays in a while. And in Seattle, before he was let go, that offense was quite explosive for a minute. You guys remember let Russ cook. So if I had to give some optimism to Cowboys fans, it would be that it's entirely possible that he's improved, grown as a play caller because he hasn't been given the opportunity in a minute.
Yeah, but you know what
Mina
it is?
Kimes.
Wait, George, excuse me. You know what it is? Mina, it's the fact that, like Marcus is saying, there's no, like, excitement around it. So here's what happened this past week. So when he got the job, I wanted to text Brian Schottenheimer. I guess that's a flex right there. And I realized that I had not sent him a text message since 2012. That was the last time that he was interviewing for a job, George. Right? George, you ready for this? Brian Schottenheimer was interviewing for the St. Louis Rams job in 2012. When I went to text him
because he was their offensive coordinator, right? Yeah.
So when I went to text him the other day, I'm like, oh, my God, I haven't texted this guy since 2012. That's how long it's been since anybody's given him even an ounce of consideration. That's why there's nobody excited about that, you know?
Yeah, he's definitely been around for a while, and it was pretty funny when Jerry Jones basically said so. He was like, he's been a lifelong assistant. He's got a lot of baggage. And everybody was like, all right, dude, you're supposed to be gassing him up. What is this? It was a little odd.
It made no sense. Let me ask you this. How much longer do you think Matthew Stafford has? I mean, he played at a pretty high level, although some of the numbers have dropped. So what do you think of Matthew Stafford's future?
I mean, I think he's got at least a year. With him, injuries play a role, I think, and will play a role in terms of whether or not he decides to call it at some point, but by all indication, he plans on coming back next year. And it would be shocking to me if it was anywhere but the Rams. I think as he showed you on those final 2 drives in the playoffs, he could still play at a level of anyone, like equal to anyone, any quarterback. I think pass protection is more important now for him than it's ever been. So, the Rams' decision to keep investing in the offensive line matters a lot.